In this video, we're going to do inserts. So we're going to insert into, and that's the type of command it is insert into. And we're going to be adding records to the database. Here's a list of the things that we're going to add, and I want you to use your own data rather than copy exactly what I type in on these ones, but I want you to follow along and accomplish all these commands. So I have found it easier to do this in a plain text editor because then I can just copy paste better. Insert into, and here's where you put the table name. So this one's going to go into user 1. And then values. Now you can list, if you're going to go to put partial columns, if you're not going to include all of them, then you need to include a list of the columns, but we're going to do complete ones. So we're going to just list, since we're listing them all and then we have to keep them in order, then we're just going to list values and not list the column names. Now to figure out what we need, we're going to have to go in exactly the order that's here. So if we expand the user table and look at the columns, then it tells us what they are. So first we need a primary key user ID that's 9 characters, a first name, a last name, password, username, department, and major. All of these are character data types, so they're going to need to be in quotes. And we want to remember the details for what the user type can be. Remember, user ID starts with SU and is followed by 7 digits. So I'm going to copy these details over here just so that I have them in the same space. And then I know what I can add. All right, so they go in order. It's the user ID first, so SU followed by 7 numbers. And then you put a comma between each value. So after the student user, then comes first name, last name, and password. So I'm going to put first name again in quotes and last name. Again, you make up your own names here. And password. Now notice this is insecure. This is not a good way to store passwords. Notice how visible they are, and you can look at those other ones and see how visible they are. This would not be what you would use in a real life database, right? You would want to be making those passwords much more secure. But that's not part of what we're covering in this section. User type, and the user type is the one that needs to come from this list, and we know this first one is a student, so that's going to be user type S. And then the next thing is department and major, and department can be null and major can be null, and we know that departments go with instructors and majors go with students. So this one will not have a department, but we'll want to put that value in there since we're committing to filling every column. And then we want to put their major here. All right, when you've got everything, then what we want to do is test it out and run the query over here. So I created a new query, entered that in, and then execute it. And it says 1 row affected. So it accepted that query, and if I go look at the table, I can just simply go right-click on the table and edit top 200 rows. There he is, Larry Williams. Notice that they're in order by user ID. That's our primary key, and these are not automatically being added. So they fall in order. It's keeping in order by that primary key. So there's that Larry Williams that we just added. Now, once I've got one working, then I like making copies of it and then going and just changing the values that need to be changed. So I'm going to need to do another student, and so I'm going to give them another name and just change all of the values that need to be changed. And it's still a student and null, and we can give them a different major. All right, then there's another student. And I'm going to go ahead and make these changes. And for an admin, the major will also be null. So that's my next one. And admin will be an A here. I have to come up with new names and new password. All right, so then I've got the admin. Now I want to do an instructor and student, and so that's going to be an IS. And I'm going to pause this while I keep doing this. You go ahead and work on yours, and we'll come back and look at mine in a minute. And I see I forgot to change the username. That won't work because usernames need to be unique, so you need to make sure and change that. We want all of the values to be independent for each user. So, oops, not too long. And then notice that when I did the instructor student, that it needs a department for the instructor and a major for the student part. There, I've got one of each of the types that are listed there, and have been careful to add departments for all instructors and majors for all students. Now I'm not going to do the first one again because I've already done that one, but now I'm going to copy them all in and I can do all of them together. And I just paste them in there and execute it. And now I have an error. And what this is I forgot to put quotes around that CS. I just put the value in there and didn't put quotes, which is not allowed. I'm going to fix it there, and I'm going to fix it in the file, and then try it again. And there we have it. So they were all added, and that worked. So let's go ahead and test to make sure that we got the major and the department right. So let's go ahead and select, and we'll just select first name and user type and department and major. Okay, we're going to get all of these from the table we were just working with, which was user 1. So we put from user 1. And now I want to say, let's look at all of the students. So where user type is like, and here's where we're going to say it can be any digit, but then there's an S. Remember that, and any character followed by an S, and that could be 0 as well. So now if we execute that, we see that all the students, so this lists all the different versions of students, and everyone has a major. So let's make sure we didn't give any major to non-students, which would simply, we'll put not like, and we execute it. These would be, none of them have a student in the user type, and all the majors are null. Great. So let's test instructor. And instructor is supposed to have a department if we're doing, so if we say it's like an instructor, and I think instructor can have, oh, yep, have a character after as well. So we need to add the % after. And we do that, execute. And there we go. Every instructor has a department. Now let's check and make sure if they're not an instructor that they don't have a department. And there we go. All the non-instructors are null in the department category. There, we were able to test it. Let's go ahead and save that test.